let's get into it. So right behind me, this is the 2023 Lexus RX 350 Premium. Now, this is the 5th generation of the Lexus RX, and that's gonna bring you a more deluxe cabin. You're gonna see a 14-inch infotainment display that we'll get into much later in the video, ambient lighting, and also some interior accents that go crazy. Now, as far as exterior features go, this RX comes with 19-inch alloy wheels. You see the roof rails on top, so you can put your various boards and your kayaks. It also has these L-shaped LED headlights with LED turn signals as well, chrome accents that really set it off and gives it a nice aesthetic. And then with this 5th generation, since it went through a major overhaul, you'll realize that the grille is a bit smaller than previous generations, and it also reminds me of a shark's nose. And don't worry, you can't unsee it, just like I can't unsee it, and that's fine. But I think that really adds a different aesthetic to it. It makes it look really nice, and I really think this grill is popping, man. But let's go ahead and walk around to the back. So before we get into the rest of this review, I just want to give a huge shout out to the team over at Coliseum Lexus of Oakland, who afforded us the opportunity to get some time with this RX 350 today. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and get into the rest of this review. So one thing on the 360 walk around of this RX that you'll notice is it has a lot of pronounced lines. It's like a samurai just went through and cut this joint up. It's got a whole bunch of pronounced lines and cuts and crevices. As you can see, there's one right here that's just really deep. So I think that's really nice, and it gives it a different aesthetic from a design standpoint. I think that really appeals to the eye, and that's one of the things that really caught my attention when I first looked at this vehicle. Another thing is this LED light bar that's sitting across the back here. I think that it doesn't really separate itself from other automakers with this light bar, but I think that Lexus put its own unique spin on that. Complement to that is going to be the Lexus written out across the back here instead of the traditional L emblem that you saw in the front of the vehicle. So I think that's really cool. Just to get into the trunk of this vehicle, it's automatic, so you can either use the key fob to get back here, or there is a kick plate. So the kick plate is going to be dope when you have groceries or anything like that, or things in your hand and you really need to get into the back of this vehicle. So I think that's pretty dope. So once the lift gate is open, you can see that there's quite a bit of space back here. You can probably fit a couple suitcases, a couple people. What Jasmine Sullivan say? Bodies on bodies on bodies. Yeah, you can fit a couple people back here, but don't drive with them back here because that ain't safe. Also back here, you have a first aid kit, and then you also have a speaker, or it could be a subwoofer, but I think it's a speaker back here. So, you know, you can get that amplification of that music as you're playing out while you're driving this vehicle. And then these seats are not power folding seats, but they do have a latch back here that you can use to put the seats down if you want to get some more space, if you want to carry some more cargo, etc. So I'm actually going to press those really quick. So there's 2 buttons. There's one for the left seat, then there's one for the right seat. So if I press that, seat's just going to pop down. If I press the right one, that seat's gonna pop down. Now, as I mentioned, they're not power folding seats, so they're not going to be able to fold back up once you press that button. So you'll have to go back through the car and put those up manually, which is fine, right? Because at least they fold down, so I'm happy for that. Now, before we get inside, I just want to talk about how you get in and how you get out of this RX. So locking and unlocking is fairly simple. You can either A, use the key fob, or B, you can touch the door handle and the car will lock if you press it one time. And then to open or unlock the car, all you have to do is place your hand on the actual door handle, the car will unlock, and there's a button on the opposite side that you can press to pop the door open. Simple and easy. Now, to get out of the vehicle, Lexus got a little tricky with this one, but I really like it. So there is actually a door handle on the interior of this vehicle, but you don't realize it's a door handle. You can actually press it, and when you press it, it'll pop the door open, and you just push the door open and you're out. Also, if that's not working and you want to get out a different way, the conventional way, there is a door handle. All you have to do is slide your finger behind the door opener and it pops the lock, and then the door just opens as you normally would. A lot of people don't know that, so I just wanted to point that out just so you kind of have that. And I think it's a pretty cool design element to have a couple ways that you can open this door. Now let's go ahead and head inside. Man, what? Lexus, okay, stepping it up. So you got these deluxe power adjustable seats. They're leather. They got this brown going on, or caramel if you want to call it that. Has a little bit of diamond pattern in the seat as well. The seats are heated and cooled, by the way. Like, come on, man. And then they also has the memory, right? So you have the driver memory. So the outer mirrors are set to the driver profile, the steering wheel, and the seat. So that's dope for whoever's gonna be driving this vehicle. And there's 3 driver settings in this vehicle. So I think that's pretty dope. Now, if I just go ahead and move to the right, you have this huge 14-inch infotainment display. It has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It's actually very responsive to the touch, but I will say one caveat to that is that when you're navigating and trying to play music or do something like that with the radio, this doesn't have a dual screen ability. So you're not going to be able to simultaneously do your navigation and mess with the radio and change settings there. You're going to have to jump out of one screen and jump into the other to be able to do that. If I move on down, you have the climate control options that are here, and those buttons are actually embedded into this 14-inch screen. So the last car that I saw this in was the Mach-E, actually, that had that dial on the screen, but that was more so for the volume control. But what Lexus decided to do is digital, it's on the screen, it's embedded, and all you have to do if you want to turn up the heat on your side or cool it down, is all you have to do is just go ahead and rotate that button or rotate that dial. So I think that's pretty cool. In the center of that, kind of oddly placed, but you have this volume button, so you can use that to turn the volume up or turn it down. So I think that's pretty cool. That's sitting right there. And then on screen, you have the climate control settings. So one cool thing about this is normally in most cars, you can set the either the climate control or the heated seats or the cooled seats. You can basically set that manually, right? But in this vehicle, you can set that to auto. So it'll basically just pop on and warm you up as soon as you sit down. You don't even have to touch anything. And the same thing is true of the steering wheel. And I just mentioned the steering wheel, so let me just pop over to that really quickly. So this steering wheel got wood grain on it. Wood grain. When was the last time you saw a wood grain steering wheel? I like that. Like, I feel like this gives it its own level of elegance. Like, yo, I feel rich right now. Lexus, you got me feeling rich. I just want to say that. I feel like I'm a king sitting in this vehicle right now. But anyway, the steering wheel is leather wrapped as well. It's pretty comfortable. You have this nice Lexus emblem on there. You have your standard audio controls on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. And then on the right-hand side, you have your various drive modes and drive mode settings, such as your lane keeping, your driver assist, your follow, your cruise control settings, and then you have some paddle shifters back there. This car ain't that fast, so I mean, the paddle shifters, that's cool, but like, don't think you're about to be blowing anybody out the water on the highway. So this is still a very comfortable ride, a very smooth ride, and a very balanced ride. And that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get a ton of speed from this. One other thing that I'll touch on really quickly on this infotainment screen is attached to the infotainment screen is the start button. I actually had a difficult time trying to find it earlier in the car. I thought it was going to be down here somewhere, but it's actually up here on the screen, and you just got to press that. So it's a push start. And then you have this digital dash, and you have various menu options there that you can change. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, as I move down to this center console area, you have a couple USB-C charging ports that you can take advantage of, and then you have this shifter. So this shifter is actually pretty interesting, and I say that to say that I think this is in other Lexus models as well, but you kind of have to move it to the left and move it back down to put it in drive, and and push it up to put it in reverse, or just move it to the left to go ahead and put it in neutral. And there's also a manual setting as well too. You just have to kind of click it down 2 times to get it in there. So I think this is really interesting. And then you got some more wood grain going on that just kind of surrounds it and brings it all in. So I think that's pretty cool. And then you have a secret compartment down here. You have a couple areas, right? So there's an area right above the secret compartment where you can hold your phone. And then there's actually a charging pad in this next section here that you can leverage, as well as some additional storage. And then you have your cup holders. So one thing that I think is super dope about this vehicle is that you have some center console storage, right? And you're like, ooh, what's so special about center console storage? But let me tell you. So you can open this 2 ways. I'm the driver, I can press this button and it opens. I can get whatever I need in here, and I can close this back. But if you, the passenger, also wants to get in here, you can open it from your side and get in here without obstructing me or anything like that. So I think that's super dope. So another thing I want to touch on is the digital rear view mirror, which I think is pretty cool. And I didn't realize that it wasn't a part of the original camera system that comes with this vehicle that you see on the actual infotainment screen when you put this car in reverse. So there's actually 2 backup cameras in this vehicle. So there's one conventionally right above the license plate where you would normally see it and where you would used to be seeing it, and then there's another one right above the top rear light, and it's actually on the interior of the vehicle, which is interesting because with that being there, if it's raining or if it's snowing or anything like that, unless it's obstructed from outside, it won't get dirty, or you won't get that water sitting on top of it that kind of warps the camera and makes it look a little weird. So I think that's pretty cool. The only thing with that camera is that it can see just higher up. So that's the view that you're going to get. You're not going to get that low angled parking view. So if you're relying solely on that, you're in trouble. So I think that this camera complements the lower camera from a parking standpoint. So I think that's pretty cool. So I think that's a really nice add, and I think it really complements this vehicle and just kind of sets it apart from some of its competitors. And this also has a sunroof. So if you're a sunroof person, you can let some light in, and that's pretty dope. But enough about the front of this vehicle. I'm gonna just go ahead and hop in the back and let you see that and see what kind of space we got back there before we go ahead and take this on the road for a spin. Now, my first impression of the back seat is it's super roomy back here. I know it doesn't look like it because this seat is a little further back. That's my fault. That's what I did when I was sitting up front, so don't trip. Plenty of room back here. As you can see, I got good knee clearance, good head clearance as well. And then the slope roof doesn't sacrifice your headroom. So I think that's pretty cool. Like, it doesn't actually slope until it gets further back. So this is still relatively flat and flush with the front. So you got a lot of head clearance here. The luxury just continues back here. I still feel good sitting back here. The seats are perforated, but they're not heated and cooled or ventilated or anything like that. But they still have the same look as the front seats do. You still have some of that diamond pattern stitching, and then you have some behind the seat storage that you can take advantage of if you want to. And you have some climate control settings back here, and all you can do is really just take the vents and turn up the climate, make it hotter or make it cooler back here if you want to. Up to you, your thing. And then the last thing is you have just these 2 USB-C charging ports back here. So nobody sitting back here should basically have a dead device, because you should be able to charge those. And you can fit 3 people relatively comfortable back here. But if you want to use the cup holders, guess what? They're located in the armrest. And all you gotta do is pop that out. You can utilize that and chill back here and ride in style. But enough about this back seat. Nothing else to talk about back here. Let's go ahead and take this on the road. So performance-wise, this RX 350 puts out about 275 horsepower. It has an EPA estimated range of 22 city, 29 highway, which is pretty good for a mid-size SUV such as this. I will say that the quiet cabin is something that is super appealing to me. Again, the seats are super comfortable. I can't really stare at the camera too much, not that I want to, because you know I definitely got to be safe, but there's a sensor right in front of me on top of the steering wheel that's looking at me to make sure that I'm paying attention. So this vehicle has no shortage of safety features, and if I were to look away for too long or focus my attention somewhere else, the car will beep at me and it'll tell me that I'm not paying enough attention. So I think that's pretty dope. In addition to that, you have your standard forward collision warning, you have your lane keeping assist, you have your lane departure warning, you also have a driver assist package, which kind of helps you around curves when you're driving on city roads or even some of the highways and when you're taking exits, etc. So I think that, again, this vehicle has no shortage of safety features. The cabin is super luxurious, as I mentioned before. The steering is very responsive to the touch, and I don't have any problems with like either oversteering, and there's a little bit of understeer somewhere there, here and there, but other than that, it's completely fine. Yeah, I think that if you're in the market for a Lexus SUV, I think that this one is well priced. It's coming in at around $55,000 with all the current options. So this is not a bad option if you're in the market for a new SUV. I would encourage you to check it out.